I'll do some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
This is my boomstick. Here's Johnny.
I have to return some videotapes.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Hello and welcome to a screaming episode of All Things Horror. My name is Ben and I'm joined here with Matt. If you're unfamiliar with the show, each week we choose a movie to break down and review. We give our honest opinions and rate it from 1 to 10. This week we're going to be talking about Scream from 1996. But before we do, let's take a quick look at the trailer.
Is that you, Randy?
What's your favorite scary movie?
They're all the same.
Not this movie.
Looks like we've got a serial killer.
Gotta knock off a couple more to get that title.
Scream. Only in theaters. Get tickets now.
So, a year after Sidney's mum is murdered, more murders start to occur in the town of Woodsboro. She begins to suspect if these murders are related and tries to find the killer as everyone seems to be a suspect. Directed by Wes Craven and written by Kevin Williamson, with a very impressive cast by Neve Campbell, Courteney Cox, David Arquette, Skeet Ulrich, Matthew Lillard and Drew Barrymore. Total runtime of 1 hour 40 minutes, available on Prime and Now TV. So I think this is this our first Wes Craven movie we've covered?
Yeah, I think it is.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't think we've not done any of his kind of really early ones, and we've not done any of the later ones, like any of the later Scream. So yeah, this is the first one, I think.
Cool, man. Oh man, I was so pumped to watch this. This is literally one of my favourite all-time horrors.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I really like. I do really like this. I actually got a lot out of it this time. More out of it this time. Just kind of with a little bit of distance from the last time I watched it. I don't know why. I just kind of appreciated it more. Maybe because I've watched all the sequels. And then when you go back and watch the original, a bit like we did with Friday the 13th, where you realise why it resonated and why people liked it and why it was so good. It always comes back to how good the first one is.
Yeah. I recently watched the latest one just last week or something. Was that number 6? Yeah. I think they're on.
Number 6, yeah. 6, yeah. I like this. I like the 6th one. I like the 6th one probably better than the 5th, actually.
Yeah, I agree. 4th one, not so much. I really love the first 3.
Right. I remember really liking the 3rd one at the time, but then going back and thinking it's not as good as I thought it was. Like, I was super excited to see it, like Jay and Silent Bob were in it. It was in Hollywood. But the actual bad guy and the story and some of the characters don't hold up as well as, like, the second one holds up really well. Like the first and the second one, I think, are really, really good. Yeah. They're like, like if you were saying like the two best in order, I would say the first and the second are the two best in the series. We might as well ask you who what your top, how you would rank them.
Well, ranking the Scream movies.
Yeah.
So obviously, I agree with you. 1, then 2. I'd go 1, 2, 3. I did really like the latest one, so 6, then 5, then 4.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I think so.
I've controversially gone 1, 2, 6. 1, 2, 6, 4, 5, 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
I know. But because I quite liked Kirby and those guys in the fourth one.
Yeah.
The fifth one frustrated me a little bit because of I don't know, just it didn't satisfy me in the same way. Six felt a bit fresher. Five, I don't know. It was just, I don't think they got that balance right between the old and the new characters. And I really do like the new characters in it. And when it got to just be those guys in six, I think it worked out better.
I wonder if that's got anything to do with Wes Craven dropping out after the fifth, because I think he passed away just before. I know he did 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I think he passed away before they did 5.
Yeah, I think they're still trying to work out how to do things. We kind of breathe new life into it, but also hold on to all the... Because as we say with this film, what brings it back to this film is like not everybody who was in the film was like a superstar or dead famous at the time, but this made them bigger, and the characters are also well written. Like Kevin Williamson's characters are so well written, so you want to hold on to those. So once Kevin Williamson's not writing those characters, there is a bit of a drop off, because I don't, five with 5, and then I think they kind of find their feet and do their own thing in 6. But he's created these characters that people don't want to let go of, but when they're in a slasher, they've got to die. Like, they have to die. So it's a strange one. Like, there's every single character in the group, even like Henry Winkler's high school principal is not just like a one-note character. He's like quite interesting character, got some good dialogue. Sidney's dad's not in it very much, but he's super creepy. Like, it's all, even like Drew Barrymore's character, it's all really well written, and that's a problem because, like I say, you don't want to lose those characters, so you have to work out how to breathe new life into it without killing them. So like Sidney will probably be the only one left at one point, won't she? At some point it's got to just be like, we'll pay her the money and we'll get her back, and everybody else, all her friends and family will have been dead by that point.
Yeah. I mean, not only is this one of my, it might even be my most favourite horror film. I don't know, it's definitely in my top 5. But even the franchise, I love the franchise because it's so clever and unique. Obviously, it's got that meta about it. It hits on other horrors, which is...
And I think that's the thing to remember. People weren't doing that at the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's everywhere now. Everything references everything else. Scream was the first one to kind of... Or not the first one, but certainly the best one to reference other horror films and horror fans and things horror fans like and things horror fans notice. So when you say it's meta and people go, oh yeah, well, loads of films are, but like this really changed the game, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Would you say this is one of Wes Craven's top films that he's done? How would you compare this against A Nightmare on Elm Street?
I prefer this to Nightmare on Elm Street, I think.
Yeah,
which is strange because, I mean, again, I'm like a massive fan of the third Nightmare on Elm Street. 4 and 5 not so great. Like New Nightmare, but it's not my favorite franchise.
Yeah, I'm the same.
But Scream, I just remember it being a huge thing, and like very rarely get these franchises made in the time that they were made. Like, there isn't many franchises like the Saw, I guess, but I never really got into Saw, that kind of stuck around and people want to continue to see. Like, the thing is with Wes Craven is obviously, from all accounts, a lovely person, but like when you go back to his really early films like Last House on the Left, and that's a really hard film to watch. Like the first, I think I've checked out on that film so many times about halfway through because it's so torturous and really hard. Like Shocker is just a silly film. It's not a great film. The Hills of Eyes I've not seen.
What about The People Under the Stairs? Have you seen that?
I've not seen that either.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
Is that any good?
Yeah. Ooh, hit the mic. Yeah, that's another one which I accidentally stumbled upon and really liked it, and it's not until afterwards I was like, oh my god, this is a Wes Craven film, which kind of made me like it even more. But it's
maybe
very,
I should check that out.
Yeah, it's very different. It's kind of a comedy horror.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
enjoyable.
I'm just looking at the info for it now, and it's like, comedy, horror, mystery. It has like a lot of tags attached to it.
Oh, is that actually labelled as a comedy horror, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, it is on IMDb.
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
I need to see that. I do like Wes Craven. I mean, obviously, it sounds like I don't because I've not sought out those films. I think what put me off was I had such a horrible reaction to The Last House on the Left. I'm not a big fan of like really realistic depictions of sexual assault or like bullying, I guess, essentially, or like mental torture. And because it's so low budget, it is really realistic because it just feels like it's really happening.
I don't think I've seen that all the way through.
Yeah, you've got to. I don't know. I can't say I'd recommend it.
This being a 90s horror, is there any 90s horrors that kind of stand out for you? Because I feel like this is like the film you think about when you think, oh, what's a 90s horror film? You immediately go, oh, Scream. Yeah,
I mean, this is it. I think there are some. There's a couple like I'm not sure if like From Beyond is a good one from the. I think that's in the 90s. There's a few, but like. Oh no, From Beyond was 1986. Wow. So yeah, I'm probably the wrong person to, but I do like my sort of 80s and 90s absolute trash films, and I think a lot of real like fun trash films were around in the 90s, but not a lot like in terms of franchises that you would hold on to. Like I can't even remember if Saw started in the early 2000s or it was 2004 was the first Saw. So okay. That's like the franchise that started there. So there isn't really. There was a couple of George Romero made a few of his films in the 90s, but I'm desperately racking my brains trying to think. But it's just kind of like a fallow period for horror franchises. Anyway, there was lots of little films here or there that were really good. I'm not saying like there was no good. There wasn't any good films in the 90s. But yeah, you're right. In terms of franchises, people just go to Scream, don't they?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think they were putting them on many horror films at the cinema. I don't think it's had the resurgence that it has now. Like horror is massive now, and like it's the only thing that will get on at the cinema other than your Marvel films, really.
Yeah. Well, you think of all the big time horror classics that you can think about, your Freddy's, your Jasons and all that. That's all 80s. I don't know, I think the 90s took a bit of a downfall until this one came out in 96. I know Candyman was, and
that's
Silence of the Lambs, but
there's some sort of horror thrillers or like sort of erotic thrillers were quite big in the 90s. Your kind of Basic Instincts and films like that where people were getting stabbed.
Yeah.
But not. It was really weird. It was a weird period of kind of the horrors were not being made, and no one seemed to be interested in making them on like making the next big. They just weren't getting the same returns like the later Jasons. People were not going to see them as much. The later Friday the 13th needed, the later Nightmare on Elm Street needed a bit of a change by Wes Craven to kind of get people invested in them again. So it's kind of a weird period of time. Like people forget and talk about how great all these films are now, but a lot of them didn't do very well at the time. It was like a joke. Oh, here we go, the 9th of this and the 10th of that, and you're like, people were not really into it, but now. People like everyone's talking about horror. Literally, it's just like the amount of conventions and podcasts and interviews and books and comics and magazines, and it's wild how it's taken off. And it's almost getting to the point where it's like mainstream.
Yeah.
A bit like comic book films. Like, no one was buying comic books when I was a kid buying comic books. Like, I had to get them shipped in from America, and to read Daredevil or read whatever it was I wanted to read at the time was really hard to get hold of them. And they were dead cheap, like dirt cheap. And then, like, the Marvel Cinematic Universe makes everybody go, oh, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek, I'm a comic book geek, I'm a comic book geek. But, like, when you were a kid and you were into those and no one else was, you were really isolated by being into those things.
It's almost cool to be a nerd now.
Yeah, and I think it's gone that way with horror. Like, you like horror films, you're a freak. Like, you're a freak. Why do you want to watch people being stabbed? And now it's like, oh man, like, I love horror. I mean, so it's like everyone from little kids up to, like, you know, people who like the Hammer horror originally.
Yeah.
No shame now.
Actually, thinking about 90s horrors, one that I also think about, which I can't really say it ripped on it because it was right after, was I Know What You Did Last Summer, because that came almost immediately after this one. But I didn't realise that was also written by Kevin Williamson.
Yeah, I mean, he was the guy. He was the guy for writing teenagers. And what he did with the writing of young people was he gave them good vocabularies for one of the first people to do it. Like, in the kind of same way as, like, J.D. Salinger did with, Catcher in the Rye. Like, he did this with, whereas, you know, instead of being like, cool dude, and every kid was like, cool dude, he gave, like, his characters a really big vocabulary and massive monologues and lots of writing for the actors to learn. And people were like, well, that's not how kids talk. And he's like, no, it's not. You're right. They don't talk like that. Like the characters in Scream, they don't talk like that. But if the worst thing that happens is that somebody goes to get a dictionary and, like, learns a new word, or, you know, is able to express themselves better, then great. And I think Scream does it better than I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think Scream is one of his better scripts.
Yeah.
There's a really good Halloween episode of Dawson's Creek, actually, that he wrote. And also he did a film that kind of went through a lot of stages of development hell, called Cursed, like a werewolf film that he wrote.
Oh, okay, I've heard of that, yeah.
He was trying to get into, like, I think he had something to do with The Faculty, didn't he, as well? Did he not? Did he not write The Faculty? Maybe he didn't. Maybe he did, because he didn't write Scream 4. I'm not sure. He did write the screenplay for The Faculty in '98. So he literally had a run of Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream 2, and The Faculty all in a row.
Did you know that he was inspired by reports of the Gainesville Ripper to make this movie?
No.
Yeah, a series of murders by the Gainesville Ripper. He was inspired by that, and because obviously at that time he was a struggling screenwriter, and the release of Scream that's what blew up his whole career as a writer, and it also raised the profiles of, like, the rest of the cast.
Yeah, because I think he wrote this first before he wrote Dawson's Creek. Whether it got released in that order, I can't remember. But yeah, he's a really underrated writer, and he had a massive say in this. And I think you put that together with the aesthetic of Wes Craven, and you have got the perfect combination of somebody who knows how to make a horror film, combined with somebody who writes really good, engaging, pop culture-y scripts that were exactly as a young person writing for young people at that time. I think it works really, really well, those two together. And it's a shame in a way that they kind of, as things get more popular, sometimes that you get away from the two main people. It's like you start seeing in scripts saying inspired by, or characters inspired by, or that kind of thing. And you think it's not quite the same. It might just be a case of you can only write so much about these same characters.
Yeah.
Like we've said before, haven't we, about sequels where it feels like like Cronenberg with The Fly, just going, no, I don't want to write any more about that. Or
it's so funny because this one actually like says that in the movie, doesn't it? Was it? I think it's Stu, like when they're talking about it, and he goes, "Oh, there's gonna be a sequel or something."
Yeah, yeah. They slag off Nightmare on Elm Street as well. They like they just get. I think is it Casey at the beginning. She's like, oh, no, it might not have been Casey. It's somebody who's like, I like the first one, but then they get,
oh yeah,
it's terrible, and it's like a bit that for fans is just exactly what they want to hear. It's like funny and like there's a little bit of truth to it, but they still love those films. It's a weird kind of joke. That
is just scattered throughout this whole entire movie. You get it all throughout, especially Halloween. Halloween is mentioned countless times throughout the whole movie.
Like Randy's obsessed with Jamie Lee Curtis, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I think what's so cool is it's telling you we're going to do some of those things, but we're not going to do it exactly the same, because whereas if this was Halloween, the lead character would be Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
And we know what happens to her. So literally she's Hollywood royalty, like the Barrymore family, Jamie Lee Curtis, Tony Curtis, Janet Leigh, like Hollywood royalty. You're going, oh, I know what this is. This is just basically Halloween, but for the 90s. And then when they kill her, it goes, surprise, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Surprise, motherfucker.
So I think that opening scene is perfection. Like when he goes, it's all fun and games, and then he's like, to see what your insides look like.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit. This is on.
All right. Okay, we're getting into it now. So should we just go ahead and jump into the plot?
Yeah, let's.
All right.
Spoiler warning.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about this scene. All right, so it starts off in the small town of Woodsboro, California. High school student Casey Becker is home alone when she receives a phone call from an unknown person. They discuss horror films until the caller turns sadistic, threatening her life and revealing that her boyfriend Steve is restrained on her patio. The caller demands she answers questions about horror films to save his life.
Of course.
But she gives an incorrect answer about Friday the 13th, and Steve is killed. Casey attempts to escape the house, but is killed by someone wearing a Ghostface costume, and her disemboweled corpse is hanged from a tree.
You really did want to see what they look like.
Yeah.
What her insides look like.
Oh, man. Come on, that's great. That's got to be the best intro to any horror movie ever.
It's definitely one of the. Yeah, I'm honest. I'm like when I'm put on the spot, I literally just go blank. But so yes, it is.
Yeah.
I can't think of any others. But it's so good. And to be fair, put on the spot, I would say Jason too. It's
you
not
would
like
panic,
people,
wouldn't you?
Yeah, people would go like, oh, it's Mrs. Voorhees actually in the first one, because you think of Friday the 13th, you just go Jason. Yeah, she's like, it's right. I'm right.
I've seen that movie 8 times.
Yeah, I shot him 6 times. It does. It tells you exactly what you're in for. It's like a little. I remember when I was at uni and we had to write scenes. Like we had to write every scene had to have a beginning and an end and a middle. It had to be like a little movie. This is like a little movie.
Oh yeah.
Like it tells you everything. It's pretty much Scream in like a couple of minutes. It's so good, and she's so good. And because we're like, it's Drew Barrymore, you get a completely different. They could never really repeat that in the because people know what they're gonna get. Yeah. So like even the second, third one, even in like the sixth one's pretty good with the girl from Ready or Not, and who's the teacher meeting him and all that kind of stuff. That's quite good. Like has a few fake outs in it and different things.
Yeah, I can't really remember the intro to the of it. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but is the second one is that the one that starts in the movie theater? And everyone is dressed as
Nia Long
Ghostface.
and Omar Epps, I think. Or I was thinking about having. I seemingly remember Sarah Michelle gellar answering the phone, but that might have been later on. But yeah, it is. You can't repeat it anyway, because once you've done that, then they know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it is crazy how this is probably the biggest scene in the whole movie, and the fact that she's the face on the box, the poster. Yeah. People dress up as her at horror conventions, but she's killed off immediately in 10 minutes of the opening.
She's arguably the biggest name in the film as well. Certainly when it was made, obviously afterwards, some of these people have gone on and become big stars, and but a lot of them were TV stars, and in the second one as well, we're looking for teen TV stars. Drew Barrymore was huge in the sort of 80s and early 90s. So she's arguably the biggest star in it, so to kill her off is a huge shock.
Yeah I know we have our trivia section at the end, because there was just so much, I've kind of scattered it throughout the plot as well, so I have got some about this. So Drew Barrymore, she was initially cast as Sidney, but she insisted to change to Casey because she thought that if she played a victim in just the opening scene alone, then it would make the whole audience think that anything could happen in this movie. And with her being the poster girl for the movie, it would be a total mislead towards the audience.
Oh man, if that's the case, and it was more her idea than anyone else's, then she's actually improved the film.
Yeah,
by doing that, she's made it a better film, and it's really cool. And Sidney's a great character, and Sidney, is your kind of Jamie Lee Curtis of this series. But they're both cast perfectly, and it works perfectly having Casey Becker in there. One thing I can say that I keep spotting when I look through all the casts is I can do without characters knowingly having now I can. Scream, it was quite fun, but I can do without characters having surnames that are of other horror movie characters like Loomis and Voorhees and or Curtis or whatever, just something to do with horror. It's so overdone now that it's literally everywhere. Nearly every horror film, the character's called Billy Myers or something like that. It's we can have some new surnames now. It was cool in these sort of films early on, because it's again all part of that. I'm a fan, Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven were we're fans of horror, just like you.
The thing I
sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say the thing I found so different about this intro compared to other horrors, you get the whole cat and mouse scene, and she dies, and that would normally be scene over. She's dead. They're done. Start the movie, but the fact that this one just keeps going until her parents come home, going through the house, they're seeing everything's wrong, broken, on fire and all that stuff, and they go outside to see her, they hear her actually dying on the phone, and they go outside to see her just hanging from a tree. It's devastating. I forgot how much I forgot how much of an impactful scene that is, after she's dead. You really feel for the parents. Yeah,
it's super violent, and again, that's why home invasion things work so well, and why people find them really hard to watch, is because it is literally hitting you in the place where you feel the safest. So they're coming home. We've all come home from a night out, open the door, everything's fine, take the dog out, or whatever it is, let the cat out, have a drink. But imagine coming home and that's what you come home to. That's everybody's worst nightmare, not just every parent, but anyone's worst nightmare, because it desecrates your home, and obviously they're more upset about their child than they are the home, but the safe place where you left your child to be safe. That's what Wes Craven does really well. He plays on the fears, the simple fears of what people hold closest to them. So whether it's your dreams, safe in your bed, whether it's at home, whether it's, there's nothing worse than getting a phone call, like a crank phone call from somebody horrible, like who's going to say mean things to you. When I was a kid, we had one, and somebody rang me up, and I was off at school sick, and it was like a proper perv ringing me up and saying weird pervy stuff, and it fucking freaked me out.
Wow.
Oh man, and when I hear that phone go and scream, same feeling at the beginning. Yeah, same feeling, sick. So like, these are simple things that can happen to anyone, just multiplied and made the worst they can be. Oh man, it works. That first scene, everything's in there, isn't it?
Yeah, because it starts off really light and kind of like flirty at first, and just a nice kind of weird random phone call that she's just chatting with. Oh, and then
isn't he? It is flirty. That's weird too. That's kind of
it is. It's flirty. And then it's the second he says, "I want to see who I'm looking at." That's when I think that's when the score kind of kicks in, and the whole mood just kind of dampens, and you just get this. Yeah,
you're right. People forget the score as much as because it is a jukebox soundtrack with like Red Right Hand and like vibes of like Don't Fear the Reaper, like different versions, cover versions of different things. These are really good. It's a great soundtrack, but the score's really good as well, because it's almost like a kind of Psycho type score.
Yeah.
It's we're not even fully into the film yet, and you could talk for ages just about the opening of it.
Well, yeah,
and it's got a perfect balance of Kevin Williamson's writing and like fanboy, and then like Wes Craven's direction and the horrible side of things that he does so well. It's so good. Yeah. It is so good, and it's rewatchable as well, isn't it? Like, obviously, I've just rewatched it for this, but it's a film you can go back and watch over and over and over again and get something out of.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this really sets the mood for how the film is gonna be.
Oh man, yeah.
All right, let's leave this scene and let's head into the next.
Do the whole episode about this.
Yeah. So after this, the news media descend on the town as a police investigation begins. Teenager Sidney Prescott struggles with the impending first anniversary of the rape and murder of her mother, Maureen, by Cotton Weary. The trauma has made her unable to consummate her relationship with her boyfriend, Billy Loomis.
Oh, Dr. Loomis's lad. Yeah. So, Cotton Weary, that's such a Kevin Williamson name. Dawson Leary, Cotton Weary. Yeah. He loves all these, like, strange first name followed by a Y surname. Yeah, it's... Billy's not the best boyfriend in the world. Well, we know this through the film. But,
what makes you think that?
Yeah. Just in terms of like he's just really frustrated. He's not getting, getting jiggy with Sidney Prescott, Mrs. Prescott. And I think with that, that's totally makes sense with like a teenage brain. However, they do look a lot older than they are. He's like, later on, he says something really insensitive, doesn't he? Along the lines of, "Oh, well, come on, like, get over it. Your mum's, like, oh, my mum left." Yeah, it's a bit different, isn't it? A little bit different when your mum's been raped and murdered.
I think I've got that written down in my notes as well. Yeah.
That's when he comes across as like, what a little prick. Like, in the beginning of it, he's like, what's quite striking, I think, is that he looks like Johnny Depp. And it's like, oh, Nightmare on Elm Street, oh, Johnny Depp, oh, and it's like just another little meta thing just through his face. That's the only thing really, other than like I don't like think that she's behaving particularly weird or anything. She just doesn't want to have sex with him because she's feeling a bit sad about her mum being dead and all.
She wants to keep it PG-13.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, again, everyone references everything that they talk about. They use movies as a metaphor for everything.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, we're in spoilers now, so we can say, you know, Billy and Stu, the killers.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't see. I've never watched it to the.
I was trying to figure out, like, obviously knowing it now and watching it back now, each kill I was trying to figure out whether it was actually Billy or Stu as Ghostface.
Yeah, I think the ones that are like more slapstick and ridiculous are probably Stu.
Yeah.
The ones that are like the one in the garage and things like that, that's probably Stu.
Falling over.
Yeah, just like clumsy, being shaggy.
Yeah.
Like, this is peak Matthew Lillard. This is like, he is eating the scenery, and I love it. I love it. He's wild in this film, but he's wild in quite a few films at this time that he did. He did one, I don't know if you've seen it, called Dead Man's Curve or The Curve.
No.
It's worth seeking out. It's like there was two films that came out at the same time about the rule in America: if you go to university and your roommate kills themselves, you get straight A's.
Huh.
Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but there was one called Dead Man's Curve and one called Dead Man on Campus. The Dead Man on Campus one was an MTV one, and this one, Dead Man's Curve or The Curve, wasn't. And he is the main villain in The Curve, and he is even more insane than he is in this. he's like wild. Like, everybody hates him in that one. I mean, they kind of tolerate him in this one, but all the other characters fucking hate him in The Curve.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I'm all about Stu.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, I think they're the best. Do you think I think they're the best killers in the series?
Definitely.
They need to bring the worst was probably, even though I like 6, I was like, like, it didn't bother me. I just wasn't arsed with this family thing.
Yeah.
It didn't do it for me.
No.
But They need to find a way of bringing these guys back, not just as ghosts.
Well, I did see like some kind of like interview with Matthew Lillard, and someone did ask him that, like, is Stu actually dead? Because I don't know. I mean, he got smashed by a TV, but
yeah. And when they stab him, and when they're stabbing each other, and he's like, oh, and look at that, it's comical. Like, he brings so much humor to this like really violent stuff. He's so cool. Right, that's it. That's the one. Yeah, he's so good. There is quite a lot of comedy across the board, though, and like Dewey and Gale, but particularly Dewey, like is comical. His relationship with Tatum and like how she just makes him feel about 2 foot tall is a shame that that's missing from the next film. Because to do it, like, I would have loved to have seen that family dynamic continue. Rose McGowan's really good.
Yeah.
Like in the sister role, but like, I just think if you could bring those guys back, the only other option for another good killer would be Sidney's dad, because he's creepy. He's only in it a little bit, but he's a creepy fuck, and there's something not right about that guy.
When I first thought it, I was dead sure it was going to be the principal, because he is fucking weird.
Henry Winkler, yeah. I love Henry Winkler, but he does say some weird stuff about wanting to gut people.
Yeah, with those choppers and all bloody scissors that he's got, he's just he's just swinging them around. Shing, shing, shing.
Oh man, I love Henry Winkler. He's so good.
Yeah,
he's good in everything. He's good in Happy Days. He's good in Arrested Development, and he's good in this. Yeah, he's so cool. It's a great cast.
Yeah. So, as her father is travelling for work, Sidney waits home for her best friend, Tatum Riley. She receives a call taunting her about Maureen's death and is attacked by Ghostface, who disappears just before Billy comes through her window. However, she becomes suspicious when he drops a cell phone, and he is arrested by Deputy Sheriff Dewey Riley, Tatum's brother. At the police station, Sidney is confronted by investigative journalist Gail Weathers.
Gail Weathers, that's a great name.
Monica.
Yeah, Monica.
But then she gets punched square in the face.
Yeah, that's a good scene. That's a memorable scene.
I'll send you a copy.
And like, this is the closest I think that that I think David Arquette has ever been to. I mean, he always plays a version of himself because he's got a kind of strange energy, awkward energy, funny energy, sweet kind of guy. Like, and I say that because literally this time last year I met him, and it was just like meeting Dewey. It was just the same, like the way. Like, I gave him a little gift because he was the WCW World Champion in wrestling because he loves wrestling. So I got him like a little because I'm a geek, a real geek, OG. And I got him a little like World Championship replica belt of the thing and gave it to him. And he was like holding it in the picture and kind of looking confused and like smiling at me and like kind of being awkward, like that I'd remembered it. And then he was like, "Can I keep this?" And I was like, "No, I want it back." And he looked at me and I was like, "No, I'm joking. Yeah, of course you can have it. It's nice for you." Which is like just awkward interactions are his thing. Luckily they're mine too, so it worked perfectly. But yeah, him and Gail, there's such chemistry between them.
Well, they got married, didn't they? Shortly after this.
And I think they're still friends. I don't think it's like a horrible divorce or anything. The woman he's married to now looks just like Courtney Cox.
Really?
Yeah, but because I watched a documentary about him like going back into wrestling. It's really, really good. I literally think it's called I Am David Arquette. And yeah, he's just such a sweet guy. I don't think anyone would have a bad thing to say about him. I think this is what happens when you're from a Hollywood family and everyone smokes weed from like about the age of 5 onwards. I think that's probably what you get. But that dorky brother vibe with Tatum is really cool. And it's just a shame that she had to die. But it's a good death. So.
It is funny, though. You can really tell how dated it is just from that scene as well. Like when they're in the police station and the sheriff asks Billy, he goes, "What are you doing with a cellular telephone?" And Billy's like, "Oh, we've all got them."
Yeah, like now, yeah. And like the idea of like being able to find somebody that easily, like phone records and stuff. Because I don't know if you've ever listened to the podcast Serial about, and a lot of that is about like using cell phone towers to ping where people are at certain times and what have you. Like in this film, the phone-related detective work is done pretty quickly. It's like he was here and he doesn't have another phone and that's it. And it's like, oh, okay, wasn't him. All right, okay, so it's not Billy. Right, great. Well done, guys. Great job. Especially because we know it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they rule him out.
I feel like, I don't know. I'm not sure if they were actually trying to kill Sidney at this point or just kind of scare her. Because obviously you get that whole kind of scene at the end where they set it all up to reveal themselves and they've got motives and they were going to pin it on her dad and all that. So surely if they were actually going to kill her, then that would just be the end. Done.
A very short film.
Yeah, but yeah,
it's weird though that because there's lots of clues that they're really enjoying all these things that are happening. They're like, woo, party, and like, oh, there's a guy dressed as this killer running down the hallway, and like everyone, like Stu and Billy don't seem to get that this is like. But then again, a lot of the people don't. Like when it's not just them. Everyone's pretty unfeeling. Like when they find out that the principal's been killed, those guys are like, oh man, we're gonna go and have a look.
Yeah,
they get like proper excited and run to try and find out so they can see it before he's taken down. It's so weird. Like there's only like Jamie Kennedy's character is quite a caring guy. Obviously, he likes his boobs and horror films and stuff, but he's like, oh, that's not very good. Like about the principal, and then like Sidney seems to be like, guys, this is really messed up. Like Casey Becker's been killed and and shouldn't really be having parties. And the principal are the only people who kind of have a rational look at it and go, oh, all the other kids are like, woo, day off school, woo, party, woo, dead people. Maybe kids are like that. I don't know. I guess they are. It's been a long while since I was a kid.
Alright, so Sidney stays at Tatum's house but receives another taunting call from the killer. The calls are traced to Sidney's dad's phone, but the police are unable to locate him. After his release, Billy encounters Sidney at school and further upsets her by comparing his absent mother to Maureen's death. After suspending school in the wake of the murders, Principal Himbry is murdered by Ghostface.
What?
Yeah, we spoke about this earlier, but it's so hilarious when they bump into each other at school and Billy says to Sidney, "You haven't been the same since your mother died. I think it's about time you got over it."
Yeah, it's either that's really bad writing, which I don't think it is, or very accurate teenage boy writing.
Yeah, teenage psycho boy.
Yeah, teenage psycho boy or teenage horny boy who's literally only thinking about one thing.
Yeah.
And like it's just really frustrating that she won't just be an object for him.
I know you tend to miss a lot of like little Easter eggs and things in movies, but just in this little bit here, there was a few going on. I'm just wondering if you caught any of them. So when all the reporters are outside the school, there's one that yells,
"Oh, Linda Blair!
People want to know. They have a right to know." Yeah, it's Linda Blair.
That's the only one. I had to say that really fast because I was like, oh, I know this one. That's the only one I know.
Linda Blair. Reagan.
Yeah.
What else was there? Oh, yeah. Principal Himbry, obviously Henry Winkler, known for playing Fonzie, the Fonz from Happy Days. Did you notice when he's in his office and he opens up his little closet wardrobe thing, you can just about make out his black leather Fonzie jacket hanging up in the wardrobe.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, then that's so cool. I'm going to have to rewatch it again. Yeah, oh, that's so cool. Do you know in this whole bit where Billy and her bump into each other, I just noticed that, like, Tatum says to Stu about him having, like, a brain leak or a stupidity leak, and then 2 minutes later, Sidney says to Billy, brain leak or one of them's brain leak and one of them's stupidity leak. And it's like, whether that's just like a little clue that they're both together, they've both got something wrong with their brains. Because it literally have just said that, almost the same thing to both of them within a couple of minutes, or whether it's just bad writing.
Wow.
But yeah, like it's a clue that they're both insane. But they work as both, because like teenage boys drove insane by horror movies and hormones is probably as realistic a murderer as you can find.
Yeah, you're
totally believable.
Right, yeah.
not that everybody who watches a horror movie or plays a horror game or whatever suddenly would become a murderer, but I think around this time you're talking about people going about or just before that thing about Marilyn Manson and Eminem and all that, which was kind of just about to happen, where people go, if you listen to this, you know, your kids are all going to be corrupted and all that kind of stuff. Because there was a gap in the 80s where it was massive in the sort of slasher boom of like that kind of thing. But then there was a gap where people didn't really go crazy about that. But then in the 2000s with Eminem and, like I say, Marilyn Manson and things like that, it was like, movies and games and videos and music corrupting your children. And in this case, I guess it's saying that it did. That's what happened.
I think everyone took big notice of the school janitor wearing the red and green striped sweater. No, didn't pick up on that.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, Freddy Krueger.
Was it actually Robert Englund?
No.
Oh, right.
Did you not pick up on that?
No, I've seen it maybe seen this film 10 times and I've never spotted that.
What? It's supposed to be Freddy Krueger.
All right.
Yeah, the janitor is dressed up in a literally identical to Freddy with the red and green striped sweater.
Wow, it's not even subtle and I still missed it. Never mind.
And Principal Himbry even pokes his head out the door shouting something, and the janitor looks at him and goes, "What'd you say?" And he even calls him Freddy. He goes, "Oh, not you, Fred."
All right.
Yeah.
Not you, Mr. Krieger.
But that is the janitor. That's actually played by Wes Craven.
Oh, it's Wes Craven.
Yeah, he got his little cameo in there playing Freddy Krueger.
A lot of directors like it. I think Hitchcock was the first one really to start doing it regularly, and I guess we do it with Stan Lee, but he's not a director but a creator. But yeah, I can't imagine just Wes Craven just popping up in some of his other films. It would be a bit weird. But yeah, this is so self-referential. Like, that makes perfect sense that they've done that.
All right, so Stu Macker hosts a party at his home. Dewey and Gail keep watch on the party in case the killer strikes again. As fellow high schooler Randy Meeks details the rules of surviving a horror film. Tatum is isolated in the garage by Ghostface, who crushes her with the garage door.
That's a real slapstick one as well. That's why I think it's Stu, because it's like where she throws the things at him and it bonks him on the head and his legs are going all over the place.
Yeah, he's so clumsy.
Yeah, it's a really clumsy kill. And the first one with Casey is so clinical and vicious. That's probably Billy. I think.
Yeah.
Because especially if she looks a bit shocked. Maybe she wouldn't have been as shocked if it was Stu, because everyone thinks she's insane.
Well, I think the first one with Casey, I think that was Billy, because when they're sat out the front right early on and they're talking and they're starting to jokingly question each other, I think they do point the finger at Stu, but then Tatum says, "Oh no, he was with me last night."
Yeah.
Yeah. But
he's we haven't mentioned Randy very much, but he's such a great character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he's the Dawson Leary of this. He's the film fan. He's the audience, really.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten how obsessed he was with Sidney. It would have been a twist if it was him that was the bad guy, because that's kind of what they did with the newer one, with the guy who was like the boyfriend all the way through, and he was a bit of a geek. I'm trying to think what he's called. In the later Scream, where
what Scream 5?
Yeah, where he's kind of like a Randy kind of character. He's a Randy character, but I was driving what he's got, what his name is, because I really like him as an actor.
I think he's quite a known actor, isn't he?
Jack. Yeah, it's Jack. His dad's an actor. I keep thinking of Kurt Russell. It's not Kurt Russell. It's not Wyatt Russell. It's Jack Quaid.
Okay.
Jack Quaid. Yeah, he's got that kind of Randy Meeks vibe to him. That's what, and then he's a baddie. Randy's never a baddie. Like, Randy's always, there's no one even questions or thinks of Randy as a suspect. He's probably, him and Dewey are maybe the only ones that people don't suspect.
Yeah. But then
they don't have sex, maybe, I don't know.
But then you don't really suspect Stu just because he's so, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess, but like other people suspect him in the film. Like, the audience might not do, but people do in the film.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
But like, nobody says anything about Randy. No one's like, oh, yeah, it's probably Randy because he's obsessed with Sidney.
Yeah. So
which he is.
The rules for surviving a horror film.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
Do you remember what they are? 1, 2, and 3 in order?
No, I don't even remember RoboCop's prime directives. But I know, serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law. I don't know, like, don't have sex.
Yeah,
that's probably not the first one.
That's number one. Yeah, that's number one.
Okay. Yeah. Is it like, don't say I'll be right back?
That's number 3. Yeah, that's number 3. Yeah.
I don't know. What's the second one then?
So number 1 is never have sex. Number 2 is never drink or do drugs. And number 3 is never say
I'll be right back.
I say that all the time. It's like this, the one line that I reference from this film. Literally, anytime I go anywhere, I always say I'll be right back. I always say it. Hardly anyone ever calls me out on it. I think you did when I said I think I messaged you or something and said I'll be right back. And I think you were like, oh, that's rule number 3.
I'll be right back.
I say it constantly just to kind of gauge if anybody's on the same wavelength as me.
I quote most of this film in my day-to-day life. Especially when I meet a person for the first time, I'm always saying,
What's your favorite scary movie?
I thought you were going to say, do you want to play a game? But I was like, no.
all right. After discovering Himbry's murdered, most of the partygoers leave to see his hanging body.
Of course.
Nearly running over Dewey and Gale and inadvertently leading them to Neil Prescott's hidden car, Billy arrives at the house to reconcile with Sidney, and they finally have sex. Rule number 1. Afterwards, they are attacked by Ghostface, and Billy gets stabbed.
What?
Say what?
Yeah.
But Billy can't get... No, yeah. But, like, fair play to Neve Campbell. She's in Wild Things, and she's in this, where there are opportunities for her to get naked, and she doesn't. She obviously said no, whether they didn't put it in this film, but definitely, like, Denise Richards gets naked in Wild Things, and Neve Campbell's in the room with them and doesn't. Like, she's quite a like, not a trailblazer, I guess, but like that's really strong in female characters in films. That sound like I feel like they were kind of almost forced into doing at least one topless thing, like Jamie Lee Curtis did, you know, in films.
Yeah.
Often where it makes no sense in the plot to do so. But Neve Campbell seemingly avoided that, so, you know, fair play.
Sidney evades Ghostface, who kills Gale's cameraman and stabs Dewey when he returns. Gale, attempting to flee in her van, crashes and is knocked unconscious. Sidney seeks refuge inside the house, locking Stu and Randy outside as they accuse each other of being the killer.
She freaks out. She's a lot better at dealing with this sort of stuff as the series goes on, Gale.
Yeah. She don't know who to trust. Oh, yeah, no, yeah. But Sidney, like, I probably would have done the same thing. 2 guys just arguing, he's the killer, he's the... I was like, fuck both of you, just shut the door.
Yeah. And, like, the worst job in the world would be being Gale's cameraman.
Yeah.
Because you know you're going to die.
And dealing with her.
He was
all
really
day.
good. I kept thinking he was Danny McBride. He reminded me of Danny McBride. There's funny, like, they're all the what do you call it? The cameramen. You always feel like they're all like in love with Gale Weathers, even though she's horrible to them. They're like little puppies that follow her around.
She calls him like a fat piece of lard or something.
Yeah, and he's still looking at her like,
yes, boss. Yeah. So I think that shocked everyone the first time around, because you think for sure the whole way through that Billy is the killer. He's got it written all over his head, even though he has alibis all throughout and there's stuff that kind of proves he's not. You still point the finger at him.
yeah.
But do you remember the first time you watched it? Was that a shocker?
Yeah, I think I watched it. I got VHS, and we're in the days of like my friend bringing over his VHS player and recording from one to the other to copy them. Okay, police, he's here. And we watched it like 2 or 3 times in a row. So I can't remember my first. Obviously, I'd watch it, then record it, and then watch the recording to check the recording recorded. And then my other friend wanted a copy of it, so we'd do that a lot. We'd watch films like 3 times in a row. So I can't remember my exact reaction, but no, it is a good bit of storytelling. Things you can get away with in the first of a series of films, I guess. It's easier to kind of hide characters' intentions and things like that. It's as they go along, and like we said with the Jason films, they get more weird and wonderful on Halloween, and they get more weird and wonderful and different directors and different characters and things. It gets really hard to hide who people are, and it gets convoluted and confused. But this really works well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Something that,
like, oh right, okay, it's someone else.
something that I think is brilliant is when Randy's all alone watching Halloween, and he doesn't realise that Ghostface is like right behind him, and like about to kill him, and he's just shouting at the TV saying, "Jamie, he's behind you, Jamie." Yeah. That's just so funny, like, because obviously his real name is Jamie. He's like, Jamie Kennedy. He's like, Jamie, he's behind you. I was like, yeah, Jamie, he is behind you. I
wonder why he was calling her Jamie rather than a character's name.
Laurie,
Laurie. But sometimes you would do that, wouldn't you? You will shout, you know, it's like, come on, The Rock. I'll name 4 films with The Rock in it and tell me what his character was called. Like, don't know. The Rock. Jungle Cruise, The Rock. Fast and Furious, The Rock. Rampage, The Rock. So yeah, I guess you could be. But then Jamie Kennedy, Randy is a big horror fan, so you think he'd know she was called Laurie Strode. But yeah, that works really well. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah. Okay, all right, we're down to the final scene of the movie now. So, a seemingly wounded Billy returns and allows Randy inside before shooting him in the shoulder, revealing himself as the killer and Stu as his accomplice. Billy confesses that they killed Maureen because he discovered her affair with his father and was responsible for his mother leaving. The pair abducted Neil to frame him for their crimes and proceed to stab each other to betray themselves as the only survivors. They're interrupted by Gail's return, which gives Sidney the chance to incapacitate Billy and kill Stu by dropping a television on his head. Billy attempts to stab Sidney, but is shot by Gail. Randy remarks that horror film killers come back for one final scare. Billy sits back up and Sidney shoots him in the head, killing him. As dawn breaks, Neil is rescued, Dewey is taken away by ambulance, and Gail provides an impromptu news report about the night's events. Yeah.
Exclusive.
Oof. And you need to remember, TVs in the 90s were heavy.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, not just dropping a thin LED or whatever.
They had some bulk
4K
to it.
thing. Yeah, got a big cathode ray in the middle of it probably as well. Big cathode tube.
This whole final scene, I know I've mentioned this before, but Stu is just so great.
I'm feeling woozy here.
Yeah. He's very cool.
I say that all the time. If I'm feeling a bit sick, I'll say to my wife, I'm feeling woozy here.
He's so good in it though, isn't he?
He's great.
He's just it could be seen as being like too over the top, but it's perfect for the character. And a lot of those kind of high school popular guys can behave however they want. They have license to do whatever they want and act like big babies. And he does, and it works, yeah.
I think I'm dying here, man. Did you know, right before Stu cries down the phone and says, my mum and dad are going to be so mad at me, Billy throws the phone and it hits Stu in the head. And that was actually an accident. He didn't mean to hit him. And that is Matthew Lillard's real reaction. He turns back and goes, you hit me in the head, you dick!
Perfect. Sometimes, like we've said before, we think certain things come up as like just happen, just perfect synchronicity, and they're just at the right time, the right moment.
Yeah. Wes Craven was just like, perfect, let's keep it in.
Yeah, we're using that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've got something in my trivia that's similar to that as well. But before we do, let's go ahead and rate this movie. Do you want to go first, or?
Well, like I say, I mean, my period of time with films that I sort of enjoy the most seems to be the 70s at the moment, certainly 70s, 80s. This is definitely one of the best of the 90s, if not the best. I'd love for people to send me a big list of films that I might like, in terms of horror anyway, because there's loads of great other films. There was more comedy in the 90s, I think, and now you hardly ever see any comedy on the big screen. But comedy's the new horror. So it's probably got some of the best killers in a series of films that I've seen, like the actual two guys. Like I said before, everything I said, I'm not going to repeat it all. I was struggling what to give it because it's not like my favorite film that I return to all the time. It's not like, I think I own it digitally. I don't think I own it on disc. But everything about it works perfectly. Everything about it's great. There is virtually nothing to pick apart or say isn't any good. So I really feel like I should give it a 9, but just personal preference, it's not like my favorite film or anything. So I'm going to give it a good solid 8.
Okay. All right. Cool. I didn't know what.
There's nothing wrong with the film.
No. I didn't know what to rate this movie as, so I've just put landline phones. All right. So, like I mentioned earlier, this is one of my favourite horrors. It might possibly even be my most favourite horror. It doesn't get old for me. I love the whole franchise, just for the pure fact it steps back from the typical standards that kind of makes fun of itself, but not in a too stupid of a way. This was 100% the right movie at the right time. You couldn't really do it now. It was like literally lightning in a bottle. 96, Scream, perfect. I try and hit on anything that would potentially lower my score, things that don't make sense or stuff that's a little lame, but to be honest, I don't think there's anything that's kind of wrong with it. Even things that you think is wrong, they kind of talk about it in the movie. They kind of make fun of itself for typical tropes and stuff.
Yeah, they beat you to it.
Yeah, when she says, "Oh, it's insulting," when girls run up the stairs and they should be going out the front door, and then she literally runs up the stairs. So, yeah, over time, it's not got any less entertaining for me. I always have a good time watching it. I'm just going to go ahead and say this is going to be my first 10 out of 10.
Wow. I thought you were going to say 11, so that's fine. Do you know, I just realised as well, that when I was trying to think of films that kind of did the same sort of thing, that there's one of the Friday the 13th films that Kevin Williamson kind of said was his biggest inspiration, which I think is the 6th one. Now,
which one was that?
It's kind of a lot of self-referential stuff in there. Jason Lives. Okay. He talks about Tom McLaughlin, the writer of that, as being a massive influence on the way he kind of created Scream, which you think is 1986. And when you watch that with that kind through that kind of lens, you can see where he kind of got that inspiration from, because there's a lot of talking and a lot of like clever, smart ass kind of quips and self-referential stuff in Jason Lives. So I was thinking if people are looking for a film to kind of double bill with Scream, that might be a good one to watch. If you like Scream, then you might like this.
Oh, okay. Cool. It's been a long time since I've watched that one, so I might have to give that one a go.
It just popped into my head now. It wasn't in my notes, but I was like, yeah, of course, he'd mentioned Tom McLaughlin a lot.
All right, cool. Okay, so that's my score, and let's now head into trivia.
Trivia. Oh, yeah.
Like I said earlier, there's so much trivia for this movie, so I ended up sticking a load of it through the plot. So the party scene near the end runs for 42 minutes long. It was shot over the course of 21 days. After it wrapped, the crew had t-shirts made that read, "I survived scene 118," which was the name of the scene during shooting. The cast and crew jokingly called it the longest night in horror history.
Wow.
21
So,
days.
I mean, the more you kind of see from people and the more you think of people making movies, you realise that there will be moments making those movies that'll be like absolute hell for them while they're making it.
Yeah.
And then when they see it on the big screen, it's probably all is forgiven.
Matthew Lillard was cast as Stu Macker by chance after accompanying his then girlfriend to an unrelated audition taking place elsewhere in the same building. Casting director Lisa Beach saw Lillard in the hallway and asked him to audition for the part. He got into the role with incredible ferocity.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Brilliant. I couldn't picture another person playing Stu.
No. Yeah. Like, maybe like a young Ryan Reynolds or something. But like, yeah, he probably wouldn't have been ready for it at that moment. Yeah, that was he is very unique.
Oh yeah, definitely. So Courtney Cox approached the production to pursue the role. She was interested in playing a bitch character to offset her nice image of Monica from Friends. This image was the main reason why the producers initially refused to consider her for the part, but she continued to lobby the studio as she felt that she could believably play the character. Her efforts ultimately succeeded.
Yeah, I think she's like Monica's not necessarily the nicest character in Friends. She's like a little bit neurotic, but yeah. Gail's one step. Like Gail's not a particularly likable character, is she? So.
The use of caller ID increased more than 3 times after the release of this film.
Everyone's
What's your favorite scary movie?
When Sidney comes out of the closet and stabs Billy with an umbrella, the stuntman was supposed to hit a pad on Skeet Ulrich's chest. The first hit got the pad, but the second one slipped and hit him in the chest. Ulrich's chest has metal wiring beneath the skin from open heart surgery he had to have when he was a child, which causes him intense pain should it be struck or have pressure applied to it. When the umbrella accidentally struck his chest, his shocked expression and scream of pain were genuine.
That could have been serious.
Yeah.
These things happen though, don't they, on movie sets? Like even now, like we talk about everything's health and safety and stuff, but there was that person that got shot. There's been people stabbed. There's been
Brandon Lee
accidents. Yeah, like these things happen, especially with like blanks as well. It seems to happen with blanks. So yeah, without going too much into it, there's some really bad stuff that's happened with blanks over the years. So I don't know. It's always good when they make a movie like this and everybody survives. That's always good.
Drew Barrymore and Neve Campbell did not meet Roger Jackson, the actor who played the voice before shooting commenced. Whenever they are talking on the phone to the killer, they are actually talking to him. In fact, none of the cast met him. Wes Craven thought that it would be better to bring out the shock reactions he needed for everyone when they heard the voice.
Oh, wow. I wonder if the first time some of these people met him was like when they started doing conventions. Yeah. Because he's always at conventions, like signing stuff and signing screen masks and what have you.
Roger
Why wouldn't
Jackson,
he? Like he probably makes all his money out. Yeah, he probably makes so much money out of it.
Yeah.
And cameos probably as well. But yeah, I wonder if the first time they met him was like reunions and get-togethers and things like that.
Yeah. All right. So last one. I wonder if you picked up on this. So at the beginning of the movie, when Casey's parents come home to find something is wrong, her father tells her mother to go to the Mackenzies, which is the same thing Laurie told Lindsay and Tommy to do in Halloween.
I didn't know that.
I didn't pick that up either.
But it did weirdly, when she did that, it did weirdly feel familiar.
Yeah.
Which I guess is what you want really for kind of a nice a feeling of familiarity, but it's something new.
Yeah. Cool. Right, that's it for trivia, and we're now going to head into this week's game.
I want to play a game.
Scared.
Okay, so this game is called...
What's your favorite scary movie?
So, okay, so what this game is
I want to die.
I'm going to take two movies and take the overall audience reviews on which movie they liked better. You have to tell me which one you think is their favourite scary movie.
So whose favourite scary movie? Sorry, the person.
I've taken the audience rating of two films,
okay.
So it's the highest audience
I
rating.
thought you were going you chose people from the audience.
No. Yeah, Dave down the street really likes Annabelle.
I was like, you've been going out, really getting busy.
I've been going door to door. Okay, so first two films. A Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween?
I'd imagine Halloween.
Yeah.
I did it.
Halloween's got an audience vote of 89%. To be fair, A Nightmare on Elm Street is not too far behind at 84.
Well, I think, that maybe it took people a little bit of time to come around to Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a couple of Stephen Kings here. We got Carrie or Misery.
Carrie or Misery? Carrie. I thought after I said it, I thought, it's Misery was very popular and well received, so I don't know why I said Carrie so decisively.
People love Carrie. Misery. So Carrie's got 77% audience rating, and Misery's got 90%.
If you remember Kathy Bates, everyone was just like, "Oh, she's amazing! She's amazing."
Yeah. Dawn of the Dead or The Exorcist?
The Exorcist. Oh.
No, it's a close one. Dawn of the Dead has 90% and The Exorcist has 87%.
I heard some cheers within those boos, so I knew it was close.
Okay, what about Friday the 13th Part 1 or Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter? Because I know that one's your favourite.
So this is the audience.
The audience vote, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
I'm going to go with the
critics.
fourth one. I think people like the fourth one. Man.
No.
Having said that, I do appreciate that. After we rewatched it the other week for the show, I really do appreciate it. The first one. I thought it was better than I remembered it.
So, the fourth one had 51% and the first one's got 60%.
Ooh, neither of them particularly good.
Yeah. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Alien?
Alien.
Yay! Yeah.
Did it?
Texas Chainsaw's got 82 and Alien's got 94.
Wow. I thought that'd be the case because Alien was like the kind of sci-fi horror film that critics and fans are allowed to love.
Yeah. Two of my all-time favourites. We got The Thing or The Fly.
The Thing. No. Oh, no. The Fly. Oh.
You were so close.
I was. Do you know what? My first thought was I think The Thing is a better film. But then I was like, I seem to remember people not liking it very much at the time. But that might have been I might have got the critics and the fans mixed up. So,
Yeah, The Thing had 92% and The Fly's got 83%.
Okay. So we've both.
Okay, so the last one, Child's Play or An American Werewolf in London?
Oh, American Werewolf in London for sure.
For sure, 85%. And Child's Play's got 65%.
Yeah. I think Child's Play is one of those things, like, I've seen a few of them. I've never really got into it massively. I know there are people who absolutely love it, don't get me wrong. But it's a little bit more divisive, whereas that one was like, everyone just liked it at the time. And it's just one movie as well.
Yeah. Cool, right. That's all we got. So, to wrap up, the poll pick for this month is up, and the choices are between 3 sci-fi horrors. So we got Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Jason X, and The Invisible Man from 2020.
Oh, and not Leprechaun in Space.
No. You can vote for those by going to either of our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. Yeah, this month's going to flow a little bit different because usually we do the poll picks at the end of the month, like the last week of the month. But as it's October, we got some special days. So next week, next Friday is Friday the 13th. So we're going to do Friday the 13th part 2.
Ooh. Well, that's next week?
That's next week, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Next Friday is Friday the 13th, so that's what we'll be doing, is part 2. And then we'll be doing the poll pick as the week after that one. And then, so for the week after that, obviously being the last week of October, we're going to do Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Yeah.
Which I've been really looking forward to seeing, because I've not seen that one.
It's the best. So we're doing Friday the 13th part 2.
Yep.
And Halloween 3.
Oh, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Cool. Right, yeah. That's all we got, unless you got anything that you want to add.
No, it's all good, man. I enjoyed that.
Cool.
Yeah, enjoyed that. It was good.
Yeah, that was a fun one. If you've liked today's episode, be sure to go and like us on Facebook. That's where we announce our next episodes, as well as each month doing a themed poll pick where you get to choose what you want us to watch. We like to hear from you, so please feel free to leave us a comment or send us a message, or you can even email us at allthingshorror666@gmail.com. That's all for today. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
This is my boomstick. Here's Johnny.